yeah, I think it's fair to say that the Habs are arguably not just the most successful hockey team of all time, just straight up based on the cups, but I think there's an argument to be made about, where are the Habs compared to, say, the Yankees or Real Madrid or the Lakers and many other great sports franchises. So I wanted to touch on that to start off with. I wanted to put the story, the incredible story of the Montreal Canadiens, which goes back 100 plus years, on a global context. And where do you put the Habs versus, say, the Yankees, Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, Bayern Munich? And again, you could run down the sports. Where are the Habs? Like, we're known for our top 10 list. Do the Habs make your top 10 list of the most kind of not valuable in terms of just valuation, but like respect, the combination of athletic success, financial performance, but it is a business, legacy, players, like where do you put the Habs compared to like the Cowboys and, all these other teams?
I think, I mean, and you're right. We're here in Montreal. We're Habs fans. We live in that world. The Habs are so huge here. But, internationally, it's a different story. But I'd say they are top 10. They're floating around the top 10. I mean, the caveat is that, hockey is, in terms of the world, a kind of marginal sport, right? I mean, the number one sport is football, or as we call it in North America, soccer. That's huge everywhere. And hockey isn't, right? Hockey is only big in North America, of course, and in sort of Northwestern Europe, well, the Northern Europe and in Russia and those very specific kinds of countries. So that's a knock against the Habs in that sense. And, even baseball's probably a more international sport. And, arguably number one on that list might be Barcelona FC. Number two is probably Man United. So those legendary European football teams. But you know what? If you look at hockey, I mean, you mentioned the 24 Stanley Cups, so they've won way more cups than anyone else. And I think if you were to ask people around the world if they knew a hockey team, I mean, let's be serious here. They're not going to say the San Jose Sharks. They might say the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they're probably, if they know a hockey team, it's probably going to be the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, I remember being, I'm originally from Scotland, and I was there a few years ago, and I would meet people who are into hockey. I mean, obviously, again, in Scotland, the sport is football, but, and they knew the Canadiens. So they're on that list, and you do see it, you see it's a kind of identifiable brand. I mean, it's funny in a way, like the Montreal Expos, the baseball team that sadly left Montreal in 2004, that logo and that name has a certain resonance around the world, but the Canadien does too. And I think the jersey, but hockey, as I say, is a marginal sport. I mean, if you're going down to Argentina or you're in Asia, people are not watching, they're not playing hockey. But if there is one team that's there, so I say if they make the top 10, maybe number 10.
It's funny because Rob is wearing the jersey. Now, Rob, you wouldn't define yourself as a hardcore Habs fan, right? Like
I used to be much more of a hardcore Habs fan back when I had more time. But over the years, I've kind of drifted a little bit. But, it's still very important to me. I do live around Montreal, and it's part of the culture here. So it's not really something that you can escape. And it is a pleasure to have a team locally that has such a rabid fan following too. So that's always fun.
The interesting thing, if you bridge what you gentlemen both said, is I think Brendan, you're absolutely right. I don't think hockey would even be, probably a top 10 sport in the world, but you can make the case that hockey is not a top 10 global sport. That I don't think is a shocking statement. And while I think some of it is weather and climate, like obviously, I also think there's like this social barrier. Hockey is just getting the equipments each year, you outgrow them, the costs and all that. Just you got to put on the skates. There's a lot going on before you could even, participate. Whereas like football, soccer is you just need a ball, and kids in Brazil play on dirt. Basketball is super popular and became really popular in inner cities with the younger kids because, again, you just needed hoops. So I think some of the hurdle for hockey's growth is that there is a barrier to get there. But then, Rob, what's funny is not saying you're a bandwagon guy at all, at all, at all.
No,
But
far from it. In fact, I was. This is a Saku Koivu jersey.
yeah,
I've been a fan since I was 10 years old. So
yeah.
you know,
And those
it's,
were the worst years too.
Good,
I mean,
that's right.
Saku was great, but that was not a winning team.
But that's the thing. Like at Watch Mojo, most of like I'm 47, as I said. I was 8 when the Habs won in '86, so it was like a first impression was, wow, this is amazing. And we'll talk a little bit about the Canadians' golden era, and we'll talk about the history. We'll talk about your books. But the point wasn't that Rob was a bandwagon guy. It's like there is a change in the scenery again. The Habs are important again. And like for the 20 years that I've ran Watch Mojo, we have these like great memories of like with the guys going to a bar, watch the game. You know, we've seen many games in Montreal. We've seen many games in Toronto when we were on business trips. But yeah, the problem was the product sucked. You know, it sucked for many reasons we'll touch on. But so yeah, I mean, I think though, if we had to do you know, as like a kind of editor at large at Watch Mojo, I think it's hard when it comes to teams to not think of either the Yankees, or I would put even Real Madrid above FC Barcelona and Manchester United, even though I recognize that the Premiership is the biggest league. And then even the Dallas Cowboys. But it's funny, when we put the NFL as the top league, not because, you know, we were like, okay, well, we're still, America is our main market. Understandably, a lot of our global viewers push back saying, no, Premiership is bigger. But then the problem is, how big is soccer in America, which is the biggest market in the world? And there it's where it fizzles. Okay. But yeah, I do think, though, that if we wanted also to represent many sports, it's not the bias. I don't really see how you would put the Rangers or the Leafs just because like they have a higher valuation. That reflects the markets that they're in, which now takes me to the next point. One of the things that makes the Canadians very unique or distinct is their place in this community. And so I wanted to just get your thoughts on a little bit. Like I used to joke that like Jeff Molson, the owner of the Habs, is like the Pope here because the Habs are like religion. It's the Vatican. You know, it's like that's, you know, he may not be running the most valuable business in Montreal, but he definitely runs the most iconic one, right? So in your opinion, as a journalist, written a couple books on the team, what is the root of that uniqueness or their distinct role in the community and the city?
Well, you know what? And I think Barcelona is a really good comparison in that sense. Is that what's unique about Montreal and the Montreal Canadiens is the team was created for a specific community. And I love this story, and I recount it in my book, that Ambrose O'Brien, an English Canadian businessman from small town Ontario, he came to Montreal in 1909 and he just saw a business opportunity. He said, okay, there's the Shamrocks, a team for the Irish community. There's the Wanderers, a team for the English community. He said, we don't have a team for the French Canadians in Montreal. So he started Le Canadien. And it's interesting to note that in 1909, Canadien meant not Canadian, but French Canadian. So, you know, as someone said to me, if they created the team today, it would be the Montreal Québécois, because that's what we call the people here now. And so that's what really sets Montreal apart and why it has such a, you know, and again, if you live in Montreal, you know this, but we're speaking to people all over the world. There's a resonance here with the team. So with the three of us are maybe hockey fans, but there's a lot of people that don't watch hockey. But when things get hot, like for example, in 2021, when they go to the Stanley Cup final just at the end of COVID, the whole of society gets into it. Like it's everyone's talking about it and it means something. And it's also wrapped up in the French heritage. I mean, there's not many French players now. They used to be called the Flying Frenchmen, but that's still a thing. You know, it's Les Canadiens. There's, you know, if you think about Quebec and you think about French Canada, what are the cultural entities? What are the things that people most identify with? There's not even any debate. It's the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, they like their government perhaps, but it's a friggin' government, you know, but it's
I don't think anybody likes the government.
No, you're right. Actually, that's the wrong thing. But you know, they liked when the Quiet Revolution and the French took more power in the government. But it's like there's no question that the Canadians here has a resonance, and it really is different. Like in Toronto, for example, they love the Toronto Maple Leafs and they live and die with them. They mostly lose with them because they're a kind of loser team, as we know. But you know, but it's true, right? I mean, they haven't had a lot of success since 1967, but they're just a hockey team. The Montreal Canadiens are a hockey team, of course, and they were a kind of losing team for a long time too. But there's something else there, and it's interesting because it's the French thing, but it means the same. I mean, in a different way for English people. So it means a lot to people here, and it goes beyond sports.